No mai haere mai ki, quite simply politics. Welcome everyone, I'm your host Holly. Welcome back to another episode. Now, the guest that I have today is Mana Wahine, absolutely 110%. I'm very, very proud to call her my friend. I've known her for quite some time, and she is a woman of many talents. It is none other than the minister of a whole bunch of things, and we will get to that, Barbara Edmonds. Welcome!
Whaftai tere lava, mole ava noa, Holly. It's always an emotional thing when you get to sit down with your friends. Emotional in lots of ways, but also emotional when you get to sit down with them in a professional capacity. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Kia ora e hoa. So for everyone listening and watching, we have been laughing nonstop. So to even get this take, it took me about 3 takes to get this. So you're in for an interesting ride with us both today. But buckle in, it's going to be a great one. First of all, you're the MP for Mana, right?
Yep, so the Member of Parliament for Mana. Mana covers the area Linden, which is just part of Tawa, covers all of Porirua, and then it sweeps up to the Kapiti coast, crosses the railway lines and covers Parapara Umu East. So I have been, I was elected to be the Member of Parliament in 2020, so huge honour, and I follow on the footsteps of Chris Whafoi, he used to be the MP.
Kia ora. Do you cover Parapara Umu Beach?
No, so that's Otaki, but I cover basically to the start of Parapara Umu Beach.
Guess who lives in Parapara Umu Beach?
Oh, who?
My matua, my parents.
Oh, they need to move 5 minutes away. We'll find an address. Actually, I won't contravene the Electoral Commission rules.
Mama and Papa Bennett, you've been told.
Yeah, maybe I can still door knock on their door and convince them for my Otaki friend. Yeah.
And then you can say, I got gossip for you about your daughter.
Yeah. Tell them everything. Yeah.
Now, what are you doing in Tamaki? What brings you up here, as well as being on our podcast?
So I'm originally from Tamaki. I was actually born and bred on Auckland's North Shore.
Okay.
In Glenfield.
Yep.
So my parents came from Samoa in 1976. They landed in Ponsonby. And as my father used to say, a rat-infested place, and my dad's scared of rats and vermin. Yeah. But then, like the Pacific Tide, they moved to South Auckland where the housing was more affordable, and to Chingford Crescent in Mangere. And then my dad, who's the eldest of Grandpa's 19 kids, because Grandpa had 2 families, he's the only one that actually got educated past the age of 14 or 4th form.
Wow.
And so one day he basically said, no, I'm going to move my family to another part of the area of Auckland because at the time there was a little bit of trouble sort of stirring down south side. But so Dad, they, through the capitalisation of family scheme benefits, which was a policy of the Walter Nash Labour government, they decided to build a house on Auckland's North Shore at double the price though. So they could have done one for 20 grand, but they did one for 40 grand. You know, for inflation, it's quite expensive now. And that's where me and my brother basically, and my 2 older siblings who were born in Samoa, were raised, born and bred in Glenfield.
Wow. Okay, so you're back here. You're in well, we're not in the heart of G-Field here, but you know, you're in your hood.
I'm home in Tamaki Makaurau. So my family have come with me, my children and my husband. They have been with the grandparents in Otahuhu, so my husband's side of the family. And I've basically been working up here because there is plenty of work here. Tamaki Makaurau is the largest Pacific population in our country, so 70%. And as the Minister of Pacific Peoples, I need to be where I need to be for our people. So I have had a lot of engagements over the last week.
Do you love it, like being a minister?
I do.
Yeah. Or do
some
you
days.
Yeah.
And I'll be real honest about that. You know, there are some days where it's really tough and it's but what I love is, like, today I've just come from Te Pukenga Manukau Institute Technology down in Manukau. And, you know, one of the nursing directors from Whitireia down in Porirua, you know, she's basically talking about how I was meant to be a physiotherapist. So I started out doing a Bachelor of Health Science.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Back in the day. But didn't do so well in it and actually didn't enjoy it. And so went and worked in the insurance industry for a couple of years and then went to law from there. But,
what a change.
I know, huge
what
change.
a change.
Huge change.
We will talk about that.
I know, we will. And changing careers. But basically, the director was saying, she was so glad that I hadn't become a physio because I wouldn't be able to affect the change that I've managed to do. So, that's what I love about it, is being able to see the product of the decisions you make, because they're big decisions and they are hard decisions. If this was easy, everybody would be doing it. So I do love it.
What is the hard part of it? Like, what is the part that, when you think about it, I love these parts of it, but then you could sort of not have those other parts? What are some of those?
For me, it's really the hardest bit is knowing that you have the responsibility and the kaitiaki and the care of so many people. And that ultimately you're going to let people down because you have to make a decision balancing things. Right. So that is hard on me, on a person that's kind of, I'm quite soft. Let's put it out there. I'm kind of soft in the sense that, I care.
Right.
So that is the hardest bit for me, is that knowing that you do have to make a call. Yeah. Sometimes it is a hard one. Sometimes it's a little bit easier. But once you make that call, you have to stand by it firmly. And there's a lot of pressure coming from different sides. So I think, ultimately, if I had, if you had like a magical money tree, it'd be awesome just to, be like, But ultimately, there is a small pot of money. You have to be really strategic about where you put it. And for me, again, as a Pacific person, as a Samoan woman, I know what pain is like to be in poverty. I know what the struggle has been like for my own family and for me and my husband as we're bringing up our own family as well. So knowing that we are in a period where it's quite tough for families, especially economically. We are in a technical recession, even though our unemployment level is quite low. That's what's helping us at the moment. I know that as it gets a bit tougher and as sort of the demand has softened, which is what basically the Reserve Bank was trying to do, we're going to have some unemployment. And we know as Pacific people, it's our people that will be affected by it the most. So keeping one eye on that and then one eye on something that's going to happen in October. Yeah.
What's going to happen in October?
Oh, it's not the Rugby World Cup, so that is happening.
I'm saying it like I don't know, but
no. And it's not FIFA, because FIFA is starting very soon. So definitely the election. So, that's something that you have to balance as both a minister, as a member of parliament, but also I'm still a mum. And I'm still a wife and a daughter, so trying to balance all those different elements.
How many babies do you have?
I have 8.
8? Yep.
So 8.
Dude, talk me through that. As somebody who has 0.
I won't talk you through all of it.
Oh, no! Oh, God! Okay, yeah.
But anyway, so I've got 8 babies. My youngest, Harmony, is 10.
Yeah.
And my eldest girl, Acacia, she's 19.
Yeah.
So basically just had them back to back. We calculated that if you had put my pregnancies in a row, I would have been in the state of what they say is fecundity or pregnancy for 6 years straight.
No.
Yeah. That's why my back is bad.
Oh my God. What do your babies think of? Like, what do your children think of you being a minister?
They actually, to be honest, a couple of weeks ago, my eldest daughter came with me to an event, and someone asked her that. It was like, oh, what's it like for you with mum being a minister? Is it really different? And then she responded to them quite confidently. She goes, no, nothing's changed. And the reason why my big girl said that is because when I actually got pregnant, I was in my second year of my law and arts degree at the University of Auckland, and my husband and I made a really conscious decision that I would continue that because it was an investment in our whānau's future. So by the time I finished those 2 degrees, 5.5 years later, I was pregnant with number 5.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we shifted down to Wellington because of work. The GFC hit. And I was really fortunate that I'd taken the option of a full-time role with Inland Revenue. So, because we needed that income certainty. So we had 4 Blues babies, 4 Hurricanes babies. And
Is there division between?
No. So actually, if anything, between the Blues, the Hurricanes, and Moana Pacifica and Drua, we're covered.
You got them all.
I'm sorry to the Crusaders, though. But yeah, so what ultimately happened is that I became the sole income earner for a family of 10. And there is nothing like the sweat that happens when you are the sole income earner and responsible for putting food on the table. So yeah, I worked long hours, both as a policy analyst, then as a lawyer, then when I got a role in the Beehive as a private sector, those are long hours, and then even longer as a ministerial political advisor. And then kind of, the career switch to becoming an MP and a minister. So for my children, I've always been the one that's been out working. And then the beauty of it is that we made a really conscious decision that my husband would stay home 15 years ago. So, before Clark Gayford, there was Christopher Edmonds.
Shout out to Christopher Edmonds.
From Porirua, in Porirua, a dad looking after 8 children for the last 15 years.
Aye.
So, that's what's worked for our family. It doesn't work for everybody, but that's what worked for us. And, we're now in many ways seeing the benefits of that. Yeah.
That's hard graft, man.
Yeah, it is hard, but, you just do what you got to do. And it's...
Did you get any breaks or any holidays?
Between the babies? No,
just in general. Like, I'm exhausted listening to it.
So when I was studying and when we had our first babies, it was tough financially.
Right.
So my husband worked in a timber factory doing joinery. He was kind of just above the minimum wage. So we had about $8. And I remember that we had $8 in our hands. So every dollar counted. Yeah. And then it was through a boost in working for families through the Helen Clark government, which is why, hence the red for me, that saw us go from $8 to $100 in the hand. That was like a huge financial reprieve and relief for our family, especially because I was studying. So yeah, it's hard, but in some ways when you're used to poverty and because I was brought up, my dad brought us up on the domestic purposes benefit because mum died when I was 4. And so he was a widower with 4 kids under the age of 11 and under, and he was age 40. So he was young when he became a widower. And so he stopped work for 10 years so that he can make sure that we got to school, that we, that he was supporting us through our school years. And then when I got to college, Dad went and retrained to become a social worker where he did it for over 20 years. Yeah. So we were always used to not having much. But at the same time, it was even though my husband and I now have 8 children, we believe we live quite a simple life in many ways. We don't necessarily have, we have a tiny house. A tiny house that's only 110 meters squared for a family of 10. Yeah. It's tiny. But it's just something that we've been used to as when you don't have much, basically you live kind of a simple life and appreciate things as they land.
And you can make them work. Like, it's
you
hard
totally can.
though,
It's hard, but it's self-inflicted. We chose to have the 8 children. Definitely self-inflicted. But it's a decision that I don't regret. Yeah. And now I love. Our kids are just hilarious. Yeah. Between mocking me and my husband and then teaching us about life, they're all, fiercely independent, fiercely loyal, scrap within each other, but don't anyone else pick on them, just watch the bunch turn. Yeah. And our kids basically, I think they've got an awareness of both how me and my husband have always been on the same page around wanting to make sure that the community they lived in was supported so that other kids who didn't have much, like we were as children, had safety nets around them. So that's how we got involved in community stuff. And so our kids have that sort of value with them as well.
Do any of them want to follow in your footsteps?
They haven't said it to my face. I don't know. And
do any of them want to be lobbyists?
Yeah, a couple of them have said it, but I mean, maybe that's my failing as a mum, just actually know what their dreams and aspirations are.
Whatever.
But I think we're pretty chill about it, to be honest. We just want to support them with whatever they want to do. And our big girl who has finished school, she started a Bachelor of Commerce when she went out of school. Awesome, but then it was COVID, and so she didn't like the online learning.
Yeah.
And so she's working now, and I said to her, as long as you're either working or you're volunteering, but you're not sitting at home doing nothing. So she's working at the moment, and she'll find her feet in the same way that I started out doing physiotherapy, but became a lawyer, and then became a minister.
Now, let's talk about that. The law.
Oh yeah,
the law. Talk me through that process of deciding I'm gonna do law, and then I'm really gonna hone in on tax law.
So it was kind of by chance. Oh no, it wasn't by chance. So as a Pacific child, like kind of it's sort of drilled into you from your parents, like be a doctor or a lawyer, really respectful jobs and stuff like that. And so when physiotherapy didn't really work out for me, and I went to I worked for an insurance company for a couple of years, and then the insurance company restructured, and so they were moving our premises down to Wellington, of all places. And I wasn't ready to move, but I loved insurance. What I loved about insurance was the contract element of it. And it sounds really bad, but also finding the ways in the contract to support people, in quite devastating times.
Not get out of it?
No. I wonder if anyone did any stats on it as me as a claims advisor and how many claims I paid out. Yeah.
We can work on it.
Yeah. But it kind of, I enjoyed contract law. So, when the restructure happened, I was like, clearly not being a doctor probably wouldn't work out because I didn't enjoy the physiotherapy course. I said, so, apply to Auckland Uni, go to law school. So went out of the insurance industry, went to law school, got pregnant in the second year of law school. I remember in my last year, I was heavily pregnant. So March, baby was due in March, and I basically went into labour during my, I think it was healthcare law class.
My God.
At Auckland University, and I was just like, sitting there full term, and just like, could feel this. Then I went into the cafeteria, which is Eden Crescent in Auckland Uni. Went to the cafeteria, and my friends are with me, and they're like, "You all right, bub?" And I was like, I think I might need to go to the hospital. And basically, because my husband was working, my dad had to pick me up from the shore, took me home, and then I had baby in the early hours of that night. I had my girl, Patience. So Patience is number 4. We call her the centre of the family because she's number 4. But it basically, for me, I wasn't naturally drawn to tax. Yeah. It just happened to be one very particular tax class where we were talking about, actually no, it was tax and Roman history, because I did Roman history as part of my arts degree.
Right.
And where the two merged, and basically the Roman Empire was brought down by Emperor Justinian because he overtaxed his people and they revolted.
Oh.
So when the fires happened, basically they had to rebuild the Roman Empire, and Emperor Justinian basically overtaxed them.
Yeah.
So for me, it was probably the first time, which is terrible, the first time I was like really cognizant of the impact of tax.
Yeah.
Can't be too much, can't be too little, got to basically pay for the roads and the buildings. Yeah. So it was from there, by chance, I happened to be at a cafe, again, just by Eden Crescent, with my 2 friends, and then one of my friends' mutual friend came into the cafe, and she was like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" She goes, "Oh, I'm just doing my Masters of Tax." And our good friend Sandy at the time, who's now a good friend Sandy, she said, "Oh, you should apply for the policy group down in Inland Revenue because they're looking for graduates." And so me and my other friend, we applied. I got the job. Unfortunately, she didn't. And that was really the start of the tax career. And sort of as my time in Inland Revenue, went through policy, through service delivery, basically got a real appreciation of actually in my heart, for Pacific people and for those people who didn't have much money, how the tax system works is actually how much they get in their pocket at the end of the day. Yeah. So that's kind of my interest for tax kind of grew. I did things, working for families, student loan policy, tax administration, interest and penalties, I did some of the land rules, depreciation determinations. That was kind of my job through Inland Revenue, and then managing a team that would do the national interpretation statements for how the country would apply different tax laws. It was just something that grew on me.
All this work.
Oh yeah, it's all right. It's not as boring, but ultimately it comes back to it's what people get in their hand at the end of the day. So, and then I just moved to the Beehive to become a private secretary, where I met you.
Yes.
And it was wonderful meeting you on the fourth floor of the executive wing, and I was still a neutral public servant at the time. But then when Labour came in, then I switched to a political role, and now I am a minister a couple of years later.
What's the biggest difference that you had from being like a neutral public servant, as the private secretary versus going into the political role? Because I've only ever done the political role, right?
Yeah.
So I could not, what was it like,
The good thing about tax is the majority of the tax work program that the government has, any government has, is actually generally the same.
Right.
Doesn't matter what colour it is. It's generally the same, except for some really big key features, such as, when we came in, when Labour came in, it was GST on online goods. That was one of the new measures that came in.
It made my ASOS packages more.
Yeah, sorry about that. But we also did the National also did the Netflix tax when I was working in the office.
True.
So that's the start of it. But you see, it didn't really, the work program doesn't change significantly except for some of the big ticket items, and that's where, when as a objective, neutral public servant, it was fine for me because I could work on, I was working with Judith Collins and Michael Woodhouse. I was in their office, and they were both wonderful people to work with. And we could have robust debate. And especially with Judith's team, she had some really awesome advisors and a press sec. We could have robust debate about how things are. But ultimately, in the end, I knew my role was very clear. My job was to advise them. And their job was to make the decision. So then switching on, when I became a political advisor, I actually, I not only had revenue, I had all of Stuart Nash's portfolio. So revenue, small business, police, fisheries, and serious fraud. So I took on all those roles, learnt about those portfolio's, learnt quite deeply about the 5 different portfolios and their, the risk areas, the law. And it just, it actually became a lot of fun. As a ministerial advisor, you have this huge umbrella look over the portfolios. You kind of have the politics. And really politics, when you think about politics, it comes from the Greek word poly, which is like people. And that's ultimately what it is. So I just got to be able to think about how people react, the consequences of changes, and how people would advocate or lobby in some respects. But it was it was a really interesting shift, and one that I really enjoyed. And that's where the values for me really came out, because I'd not only been working in the Beehive. When you're a mum of lots of kids and you're a lawyer, basically, I was on the school boards for my kids. I was in the rugby club on the committee. I was doing pro bono work as the lawyer there, doing judiciary hearings when some of the rugby players are naughty. Trying to get them off some of their, their penalties. But, and if there wasn't a sports club, then, me and my friends, we built a sports club. For TAG, where we went from 22 kids to 400 in about 3 years.
TAG?
Really? Yeah. That was our Raptors TAG club. Yeah, I know. But it's just the things that
Talk about bringing people with you.
But it's just kind of what you do, because people were hungry for the opportunity. They just need someone to lead it and establish it. So that was it really fitted with my Labour values, really fitted with what I was doing already in the community.
Do you see Michael Woodhouse or Judith Collins
over
the house,
and
you're like,
still do, and Woody, it's quite funny because Woody, Michael Woodhouse, he is the spokesperson for economic development. So my first, our first question in the house, where he's asking me a question and I'm responding, afterwards as we walked out the house, he goes, "Oh, that's quite fun sparring with you." And it's like, just like the good old days, and that's the thing with politics, is there is a level of respect. We can spar in the house, but actually outside of it, we want the same thing. We just have a different pathway of getting there. And some things they would do, we wouldn't do. Some things we would do, they wouldn't do. But there was always a level of respect. And, you know, Michael and Judith were both, they were great bosses to me. They knew that I had a large family. And basically, you know, if they knew that if I really needed the time off, it's because I was asking, you know, it was the very last protocol when my husband was sick or something. But the same with Stuart. You know, I loved working for Stuart for those 3 years. It was a hard job. You know, but it was really great. And that's ultimately, for any minister, the team around them makes or breaks them.
Yeah. Do you sometimes sit there and go like, what a meteoric rise? Like, do you feel, because for me, that journey, and we crossed probably 2016, I think it was.
Yeah, maybe 2016 when I came in. 2015.
Yeah, 2015, 2016, yeah. And it's like, you're a minister.
Yeah, that's a bit shocking. When I was like, who's meteoric rise?
Yours!
I know.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah. It is. And the thing that I'm really, really conscious of is making it sustainable. Yeah. You know, and not to lose myself in it, is to make sure I stay grounded. Yeah. I stay genuine and authentic, because, man, you can't wear a mask in this job. Because once you put on a mask, and if for any reason it comes off, it's real obvious to people, really obvious. Yeah. So, and I've, you know, again, being in the background and seeing how different ministers have operated in different ways, you can see when the pressure's on, that's when the real person comes through. So, don't really see it as a rise in this, in the respect. For me, it was just, I came into Parliament, I wanted to be a really good backbench MP. I wanted to be a really good electorate MP. And that's what my mentor had helped me get to when I made the decision to run. And it was because basically I felt like actually I started to get paid for what I was doing in my community anyway, which was connecting people, finding funding, helping people with their problems. And so I felt really honoured that I could do that as part of my job. And then, you know, Chris Hipkins came in January, and I'm really proud of our team and how that transition happened. It was so smooth. Yeah. It was heartbreaking at the time because Jacinda was the only leader I knew under
Such a shock.
Yeah, it was a massive shock. It was a shock for all of us. Yeah. But, you know, how the team conducted themselves, you know, with integrity, with confidentiality. There was no knives. Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah. And then to see Chris come through and basically, for me, just put my head down, do my job, you know, and be a good person when I'm trying to do it. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to let you have some of your tea because I'm cognizant I've been just getting all the juice from you, making you talk and, you know, get your tea.
Oh, nice tea.
Now, one of the things that when you talked about what you were doing for your community, connecting people, standing up for them, advocating, that really, really drives me as a lobbyist. And one of the things people don't know is that I was always, because I'm focused on kaupapa Māori and focus on that, I reached out to you and I was like, what are we going to do in the Pacifica space, you know, for Pacifica lobbyists? What corridor do you have? Have you given it any thought? Not now in terms of like your mahi, because you're definitely busy, but in terms of like elevating our people more into these spaces?
And I've just come to you today. Earlier today, I was at Deloitte. Yeah. I was at their PASPL, which is their Pacific network for Deloitte. And, you know, speaking to the main partner there, Lisa Tiai, she basically said that Deloitte had gone from 30 Pacific people in their whole business here in New Zealand to now 70 in a very short space of time. Because they had been really, when Lisa came on, basically she championed it and they became really intentional around their recruitment and hire. So for me, having gone into a space, especially in the finance and economics world, where I was the only one at the tax policy shop, I think I still am. Basically, the kaupapa that I wanted to share with other financial, economic, Pacific professionals coming through is that there's a space for us. Yeah. And actually, we don't have to change the way that we work and do things to fit a particular model. And I shared with those, with about 20 PASPL members today, and there were some online from the Solomons in Australia as well. I shared with them the story about how when I was going through my career, how I wanted to become a senior policy advisor. But there was basically, because I had children, and because of the way that I would make my policy, I'd develop policy by talking to people throughout the department and talking to in confidence to people outside of it to come with a policy solution. Because that's how Pacific people do things. We collaborate.
Yeah.
We basically work with others to find the best solution. And so it's quite a robust solution that you come up with because it's been tested. But the way that the policy shop acknowledged critical thinkers were those that basically thought of the solution by themselves, wrote a report, and then came to a table and then had it basically tested.
Yeah.
That's not how I developed it.
Yeah.
So I really, at the time, those skills weren't recognised. And then I had a really amazing manager who had been in the department for a long time. And he basically said, "You're just like me, bub. People give us a problem, we go away, we find the solution quietly. But then when it comes to promotion time, we get overlooked because we haven't done the big song and dance about it." So when my career sort of was stalling because we really wanted to make me a senior, that manager said to me, "I'm going to put it in my performance expectations for the year to make you a senior." So
really?
So he put his money where his mouth was, and I've never had a manager like that.
That's leadership.
Yeah, huge leadership. And then unfortunately, as we worked throughout that year, the goalpost shifted because the group of managers decided, "Oh no, we're not going to do this promotion round in October. We're going to do it in January." And initially, when my manager told me, I was just like, "Oh, okay, that seems all right." And then it dawned on me, it's just like, no shit. I'm a sole income earner for a family of 10. If I have to wait another, 6 months for a promotion, that's a huge financial strain on my family when I'd basically been really loyal to this unit and was trying to get promoted. So that afternoon, I basically went and saw the vacancies on our intranet. I found that one particular area of IRD, which was the service delivery arm, we're looking for solicitors. I rang the manager because, again, as a Pacific person, we make connections, right?
Yeah.
I rang the manager and I said, "Oh, I see you've got some roles going." She's like, "Meet me downstairs at 3:00. So we went downstairs for a cup of tea and she's just like, "Okay, when you get interviewed, you'll get this, I want this, and you'll need to prepare for a case." So hopefully I don't get her in trouble. But basically she was just like, "We want you.
Yeah.
You have all the skills that we want."
Yeah.
And so I shifted.
Amazing.
And that's pretty much what I left with this group of Deloitte, people coming through, which is basically you don't have to change the way that we do things, that we work out solutions just to fit a box. And actually, if anything, the way that we've done things as a Pacific community, as it's the same with tangata whenua, the way that we do things around collaboratively working with others, those are the skills now that people absolutely want. Yeah. So, boom for us.
Yeah. Boom. Do you find yourself leading more and more as a minister in that way too? Or is it harder in the structures?
They don't for me, Minister Barb is the same Barb MP. If it comes back to that you can't wear different masks. Yeah. Earlier today I had it was the Tangata Moana media whono. It's the first time all the different media groups, Pacific media groups, had come together. And in my team, and you know what this is like, Holly, the team, the department makes you a speech. Yeah. Then the speech goes through the political office, the press sec changes it. And then this morning as I was there and I was kind of listening to the kaupapa, listening to the talanoa, I was just like, I can't use this speech. I can't use this speech in a room full of media broadcasters, Pacific media broadcasters, journalists,
Of my people.
I know. Neva Retamanu was there. And I was just like, oh my gosh, Neva, Mamara.
Legend.
I know. And Lisa Tauma was there. And I was just like, John Paul. And I was just like, I can't use this stuff. So I just put down my notes and just basically said, there's, my nervousness around presenting to them is because they're media
Mm.
and they're storytellers.
Aye.
And they're going to be able to see right through it. So I said, I'm just going to speak from my heart and be genuine and talk to you about the challenges I'm facing today and how they reflect as well the challenges that media have. So, there's no sort of difference between minister, MP, because actually the way that you conduct yourself, both as a person, then as a member of parliament, should be reflected as a minister, because it's too hard to be anything else.
Yeah. What are you thinking about in the lead up to the election? What are the main things that you're thinking about right now? If we're not separating those two people, is there key things that are on your radar? Yeah,
it's tight. It's going to be really tight. Obviously, I've got my team. I got my team, and I'm confident we can take it through. But the main thing, for me, is trying to balance now as a minister. I have a responsibility to all of Aotearoa and the portfolios that I lead. Yeah. At the same time, I've got my electorate of mana of 70,000 people that I'm going to need to basically awhi again to say, vote for me, But I knew that when I got elected in October 2020, that actually my next campaign for 2023 started the next day. Yeah. If you are not in the electorate, if you're not out and about from day one, people remember. Yeah. You should not be turning up in year 3 to a new place, be like, hey, I'm your local MP. Because people see right through that kaka, 100%. And so the campaign for me as an electorate MP started on day 1. And that's what I hold on to, And again, when I'm out and about across the country, I'm always thinking of home. Yeah. And I'm always relating it back to, what's good for mana is good for the rest of the country as well. So it's a really, it is a difficult time to balance that. And that's what's on the top of my mind at the moment. But man, I just can't wait to campaign full time. I really can't.
When does that happen? When is
so
there a time?
The pre-election period starts July the 14th.
Okay.
So that's when all the different rules kick in. You can't promote sort of things without having an authorization statement, blah, blah, blah. And then the House rises at the end of August. So that's when Parliament stops. So really, you're going to see it just really kick in from September. And that's to the rest of the country as well. They're going to really see the campaign. But you'll see now with mainstream media, the campaign's already started, right? It's sort of this failure, that failure, this failure, that failure, and this policy, that policy. But ultimately, if we're not out there with the people and talking within our own areas and across Aotearoa, then, the people will tell us in October.
Do you, because one of the things is they're all MPs, when you're campaigning, it's every day, era, every day. Do you ever get to take a break, or do you just lay it all out? You're just nah, I'm going for it.
And that's life as an MP, right? I mean, you'll know when we worked in a ministerial office, the only time that politicians actually get a break is Christmas and New Year's. And you take a solid 3 weeks, turn the phone off, just be with your whānau. And that is the only time you really get. But, I feel like I'm campaign ready because basically what I've been doing has been campaigning from day 1. Yeah. And so, today, for example, I've got 3 major speeches, still got one after this.
Oh my God.
I've had 3 events, and that's, but that's the privilege and the responsibility we have, because people want to see us, people want to talk to us, people want us to understand what their issues are. So I'm ready for it, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Now, I saw on your social media,
Which one?
The secret one that you had. No. Jokes, there's no secret.
No, there's none.
That our very first guest that we had on the podcast, who is Wahine Toa Hard, and I've got a lot of time for, Deputy Prime Minister Carmel Sepuloni. You recently spent time with her, and she got what I know to be tāmoko, but that's not in
our Pacific.
Can you talk about that? And also, what is it called again?
Yeah, so Carmel just this week got her malu. Yeah, so had her malu card, like tātatau. So a malu is for a female. It's on their thigh, so sort of covers sort of just below the knee to just below the hip. And it is through she did it traditionally with Leo Favour, which is the Gākagao. And Carmel, for about 5 years, had been considering this.
Right.
She said that she knew that if she was going to get a tattoo, it would have to be a malu first. And for her, the timing was right because it's Matariki.
Right.
She's the Deputy Prime Minister, our most senior Pacific leader, within our country at the moment. And so she actually raised it. We were on the Pacific Mission in May, and she's like, "Oh, I'm thinking of getting my malu." And then I was just like, "Yeah, I'll get mine too." and then I chickened out. But just that initial yeah, I can do it. But actually, to get your malu done, it's a sacred time.
Right.
So we started it in the morning with prayer. So I got to Carmel's house just before 6:30 in the morning. We had lotu at 7:30, basically to bless and open the process. The tafunga, the favour, had actually come over, and the power was turning off at 8 a.m. So she didn't have any power in her house from 8 till 5:30, which was great. No distractions.
Yeah.
That's what she said. So the timing was right. And then so he started the ga around just after 8 a.m. And then she finished about 6 hours later.
Wow.
So for me, as as her sister and colleague, me and our other Pacific female MPs, we cleared our diaries, which is huge.
Yeah.
To clear a diary is huge. So we cleared the diary, and we were with her right throughout the day, just basically singing, massaging her, just basically talking to her, keeping her company as this whole process, because it's painful.
Yeah.
And it's the traditional way with the ao, and with which is the teeth, and then with the ga, which is where they're tapping it. It's not with the gun.
Yeah.
So you basically are piercing the skin and filling it with ink. So yeah, Kamau had that done. We're so proud of her. And there was quite a sort of an emotional time just as she'd finished her first leg, and it's sort of there was a shift in the mood of the room, and we could feel it. And I was just like, oh man, I was crying, Carmel was crying, everyone else was crying, but yet no words were shared, but you could feel the wider shift. And then as she finished that first leg, she stood up, and she was emotional because she saw the room was full of people who were there to support her in her journey. So yeah, it's a beautiful ceremony to have been a part of. And as much as Carmel she said, as much as I tried to peer pressure you, Barb, for me, I wasn't ready. And I think part of it is to make sure that my husband is also ready, because there is a lot of care that's required afterwards. So I know one day it will happen. But for me, the timing wasn't quite right. And actually, after Carmel had finished both her legs and we were in her room just having a little, just talking to her, making sure she was all right, she was saying, you know what, Bub, I don't think I could have handled it emotionally if you did it at the same time too, and it is quite emotional. So real privilege to be a part of it, and, just love and care for our sister.
Yeah. What kōrero did they tell?
So so as Little Favour said, it's the whianganga. So he said whianganga in the Samoan culture is the equivalent is called covenant, and it's a covenant between a brother and a sister. So basically the brother is the protector and the sister is the guider. And basically what had happened is that when the missionaries came over, the whianganga changed. So the spiritual, the sister, actually went to the priests and the pastors and the reverends. They became kind of the whianganga bit. And then the brother was still there because under Christianity, women are subordinate to the men. So it was still kind of there. But for Little Favour, he is of one of the two tufungas, or the houses of tattoo, basically, practitioners.
Wow.
The other one is Suluape. And for 3 generations, Little Favour had, for 3 generations, his family was not garing the kakao because they had stopped their craft. So he had to cross over into the Suluape family to learn the craft, to now be his own tufunga, and his work is amazing. And I say that also because he's from my same village. But for him, it was, as he explained it at the end when we did the samanga. So the samanga is the last part of the process when everyone had been done, because it was Carmel for her malu, and then it was Mary, her daughter-in-law, Kieran Meredith, and Teresa Ngobi. They did their hand. So because you do it in pairs, the tattoo. So basically at the samanga, Carmel gets her legs get covered in turmeric and coconut oil, and that's to recognize how we used to traditionally basically anoint our dead,
Right.
as sort of a reference to her ancestors. Right. He then cracked an egg on top of her head as a reborn. She was reborn, and then said the whingainga was basically reinstating that covenant for the sister brotherly alofa, and basically bringing that back for her. And so now from here, Carmel, she said in her closing comments to everybody, it's now the responsibility for her to learn her language and to be stronger in her culture. That's basically guiding her to, that's the next phase for her.
Kia ora.
Yeah.
That's interesting what you said about the turmeric and the coconut oil, because I was watching her doing the dance. I don't know.
Her siva, yeah. So at the end, we do a taulunga. So taulunga literally means to put on top. So when when a house is being built and they thatch the roof, that's the dance that you do. So it's a celebratory dance, yeah. So Carmel did her taulunga at the end of it, and as you would have seen, like some of the footage, there was a number of us around her dancing with her.
Yeah. And wow, the process, because I got my tamuko with the gun versus that. Woo! Like,
she was so malosi or strong. She had kaha, man.
100%. Oh my gosh. So you're doing another speech tonight?
Yes, I am launching the waka for the Dawn Raid stories. So the waka is going to be going across the country to collect the stories of our Pacific people from the Dawn Raid's time, so that we have a written account of the histories from that time. So that was part of the apology, the Dawn Raid apology. So I'm launching that tonight in Grey Lynn at the Afakasa Church.
Wow, that's massive.
That's so cool.
Do you ever reflect on the stuff, and because my heart gets heavy sometimes when I think about this stuff, and I go, man, I can't believe we actually have to do that happened.
Yeah, and as some will know, it happened quite recently as well. Some of it, and there's been a moratorium on that at the moment. It's a different time, right? And my family never really talked about it at all. I actually learnt about the Dawn Raids at university. And then quite recent, because of the Dawn Raids apology, one of my uncles shared his story of basically working at a shoe factory and then being taken away from work, not being able to say goodbye to his family, and being put on a plane and sent back to the islands. And for them there was a lot of shame, there was a lot of ma with it. But basically, what we intended through the apology was, one, a genuine apology for those wrongs. But two was, now how do we capture this part of history? And then how do we learn from it so it doesn't happen again? So it was incredibly disappointing that it happened quite recently. Yeah. And, now we've been alerted to it, because it is a very operational thing that, as you know, ministers don't know all of that stuff. But, once it happened, then we basically had given some very clear suggestions to the CE of what we think should happen.
Yeah, kia ora.
But it is. There's a lot of mai, and that's something that I think becomes quite personal for every person and every individual to work through.
It's really important for these stories to be captured for that future generation, right? What would you say to young Pacifica right now who are thinking about politics as a career? Would you recommend it? Would you not? Would you say go do tax law? Where would you send them?
Do life first.
Yeah.
The best, I reckon, politicians or the best leaders bring with them an experience that no one else can share. live a little bit, get different experiences, because there are so many different pathways to Parliament. There are so many different roads to get there. I mean, my journey was my journey.
Right.
But live a life a little bit, because actually from those lessons that you learn, that is what will help you when you come to that place to, one, withstand it. It's a tough place, but also to help when it comes to designing the policy that you think will help other people.
So we're going to wrap up shortly, and I'm going to do the bowl of bravery. But
okay.
I'm going to ask you a question now that I have to ask you this. And especially as you're my friend, I feel comfortable being able to ask you.
Oh my gosh.
Building
Holly, that's the wine hour later.
What is one thing that people don't know about you that you wish they knew?
What's one thing? I straighten my hair.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know what?
Talk to me about this, man. Come on.
It sounds really bad, but so many people think that my hair is straight. My hair is so afro.
Is it?
Yeah. It actually...
As your mate, I never knew this.
No, it naturally is. And that's because I've got Solomon Island blood too. So my great-grandfather, he was Solomon Islander. But people don't realise I straighten my hair. And it's just like, this is so superficial. But I just do, because it's actually easier to manage.
Right.
Yeah, when it's like kind of, au naturel, it's all over the place, and it's just like, oh, get it out of my face.
Yeah. Is it like, what kind of is it like wavy or just buffy? Buffy. Do you have a weapon of choice?
Straightener.
Yeah, but
I've got a.
Do you have a GHD, a Cloud9,
it's
a Dyson?
I think it's a Cloud9.
Cloud9?
Yeah. It's not a GHD. It's it's a Coin. Quene. That one. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of them.
Yeah.
So my hairdresser that I've used for like 9 years. Yeah, so
that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one that she uses in her salon. So so I do that. But sounds really bad. Kind of as I'm getting older, because I'm over 40, your body changes, and I'm actually really in tune with my hormonal changes, having had so many children.
Yeah.
But I'm noticing my hair is starting to change as well.
Yeah.
So apparently that's kind of something you see in perimenopause. So
okay.
That's for another podcast.
Yeah.
Perimenopause.
Come back.
Yeah, I don't want to scare anybody. But so my hair is starting to change. But that's one thing that most people don't realise, is that I straighten my hair. And that's just to manage it better. And I've done it for years. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's a real cool tidbit, especially wahine to wahine, because I think about that stuff all the time. I straighten my hair. My hair's this weird, has no curl, just crazy.
I think one day it'll eventually become au naturel, and I'm hoping that I take on my Chinese side, because my other great-grandfather was Chinese, and my grandmother had this beautiful, thin, straight Chinese hair all her life.
Is there anywhere you don't fuck up to? I feel like that.
No, you even got Portuguese. I should do one of those DNA tests. It'll be everywhere. But so my grandma, who's Chinese Samoan, she had the most beautiful fine hair, and she didn't actually start to go grey until she was in her 70s. I'm starting to get greys now. I think that's the stress of the job. But I'm hoping that as I sort of age more gracefully, it'll just become more Sanga or Chinese-like.
Those wahine who have full grey hair, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I'm not gonna dye my hair. No, I've decided I'm just gonna let it happen.
I love that. Then they have it, and it's like, I'm like, yes.
I just don't have time.
Yeah,
because I'm straightening my hair,
as well as being a minister and a mum of 8 and all these other things.
Yeah.
Okay, bowl of bravery time. So,
okay.
I don't know if you want to have some tea before you.
Okay, maybe I'll just. You sure it's just tea in here?
We are not spiking a minister's drink.
Okay.
So, bowl of bravery. Everyone who listens to our podcast or watches our podcast knows that this is all about kind of weird, odd questions.
Oh, God.
And we give the opportunity for our guests to pull a question out. No one has not answered a question yet. And then you read the question out, and then you answer it. Kapai?
Kapai. This feels like it's been worn a bit.
Yeah, rigging it.
Is there anything you wished would come back into fashion? Oh. That's hard because everything keeps coming back into fashion. And nomads should never come back into fashion. They're called nomads. They're old school shoes. Just look them up.
What are they?
Yeah, don't worry.
Oh,
about them.
okay.
They're the most ugliest school shoes.
Okay, I'm absolutely gonna look them up now.
And I was gonna say, like, the first thought that came to my head was like MC Hammer pants, right? The big balloon pants.
Yeah.
But I've seen them come back into fashion.
Absolutely, and they're comfy ass.
Yeah, so I don't think I can answer this.
Nah,
because everything
that's not an
comes
acceptable
back.
answer.
Okay.
Friend to friend, I'm not gonna let you leave unless you want to pull out another question.
No, let me put out another question because
Okay.
I can't answer that one yet, and I'm genuine about it because everything that I think is fashionable comes back. All right, take two.
Okay.
What is the weirdest conspiracy theory you have ever heard? Okay, you know what? This is the one where the Declaration of Independence, the Māori one, basically therefore creates a jurisdiction where people from overseas can come and run the Nuremberg trials. That is the weirdest one I have heard, and I only heard that this week.
Where did you hear
top
that?
of mine. I heard
Was
it
it
this
Facebook
week.
or something?
No,
Or-
I think I saw it on stuff.
Oh.
But basically, that's the guy that was overseas. Because I remember being on a street corner meeting in
Aye.
Kapiti because I did street
Yeah.
corner meetings. And this person came up to me with a letter and basically talked about these Nuremberg trials. And I was just like, what the you're talking about?
God, it wasn't one of my parents, was it? No.
It was in Raumati, not just in the
I'm
beach.
like, what are you doing?
And there was a nurse there. She said she
Yeah.
was a nurse, and she was just going hammer and tongs with him about why the COVID vaccination was important. I was just like, okay, guys, we're just gonna leave this for a meeting. But that's the first time I had heard about these Nuremberg trials, and then it came obviously with the protest happening. Basically, the
Yeah.
Nuremberg trials were the return of those sort of the Nazi. Basically the people that had done all those bad things,
Yeah,
the
that's
Nazis,
right.
and basically trialing them afterwards. So for war
Yeah,
crimes.
right.
So apparently there is no jurisdiction across the world that could do these Nuremberg trials, but basically the conspiracy theorists reckon because Māori signed the Declaration of Independence here, it has created a jurisdiction whereby they can run these trials.
Okay, that
So boom,
people
that
just need
one.
to get
Yeah.
that big tick for answering that question. Also a big like as to what's going on.
Yeah, I know. So that is the weirdest one I've heard. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh my god. Okay. Thank you so much for spending time with us and coming on the
Pleasure.
podcast. If people want to get in touch with you, where should they go?
Um,
To your secret
yeah, to my secret page. Holly Bennett. You can find me on Facebook, Barb Edmonds or Barbara Edmonds of Mana. I think I'm on Instagram as well, Barb Edmonds Mana. But also, actually, if there is a real issue that you need help with, barbara.edmonds@parliament.govt.nz.
Yeah, kia ora.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where you can find me.
I'll be sending an email.
Yeah, not Twitter because I don't really like Twitter.
Yeah, it's
It's
not
a bit scary.
it's not the best place,
But I'm there to look at everybody else doing stuff. But yeah, don't send me a message on Twitter because I don't really check it that much. Yeah.
I hope that you have an amazing time
Thank
at
you.
the event tonight, big momentous event. And again, just mihi to you. Thank you for being absolutely fantastic wahine, a great minister, and a really good friend to me. I'm really, really grateful for your time.
I'm proud of you, girl.
Oh, kia
You know,
ora.
you were always different when you were in the beehive. Different in the sense that you were your genuine self. You know, there was a certain type that was in the beehive at that time. And
She's saying that I was noisy, and I'm really noisy. We
no,
all know
not
that.
noisy. But you know, I remember again seeing you with a Porirua CrossFit hoodie.
Alright.
You know, driving a Beamer with your initials. You know, the girl can wear a Porirua hoodie and drive a Beamer. That's pretty inspirational. So,
There's a whole lot going on.
and incredibly proud of you that you've basically been able to create what you've been able to create by being yourself.
Kia ora.
So let's go.
Let's go.
Let's
Reheko.
Yeah.
Kia ora, everyone. Thank you so much for dropping in this episode. Remember, like, subscribe, and we will catch you on the next one. Ka kite.